want to talk about actually go a little deeper into ship construction. I mean, it's kind of pulling together a lot of the videos you've already seen, like on YouTube, but it seems that each one of those, I wasn't able to get out the information. I was so rushed to do each one. Right now, it's a little bit different, you know. So what I want to talk about kind of is, what is it that makes the composition of this ship right here that you've seen before? And this is the first ship that I saw when I had an adult experience, as I call them, which involved about 4.5 hours of missing time. All right, this is also the same ship that morphed into it changed actually into this, which is the Merkabah that I've showed you before also. And I mean, I think it's worth talking about what type of a ship is it, what type of material is it that we see that is first it looks like a metal Pleiadian type of saucer craft, and then it turns into something that is a quasi-crystal compound like this that is glowing. I mean, that's phenomenal. And actually, for me to perceive and witness this ship doing that was so dumbfounding, flabbergasting, that I mean, it was hard to even take. I mean, for a good amount of time, right? Anyway, so it's that ship. And also, I think it's worth talking about, I've mentioned the inside of this ship, several different rooms, all right? We've got the biodome that was in there. We've got the descent chamber that I've talked about. We've got the the inside of it itself, and talk about what actually the compound is. It is that also is involved on the inside compound, and not to mention that this ship was actually, when inside of it, the rooms were moving around me. All right, I've talked about that. And when I give out this information, I want to know, there are mathematicians out there that specialize in interspatial geometry. What type of calculation is it that allows a room to move around me like that, that creates that horrible temporal aphasia that made me so sick? You know what I mean? What is it exactly that allows an environment to do that, that makes it trans-dimensional, or like the TARDIS, bigger on the inside than it is on the outside? There's no doubt that this was actually trans-dimensional just like that. All right, so I think it's worth talking about that a little bit. Now, the information that they kind of transferred to me concerning the ship, the shell, the outer shell of this craft, all right? And a lot of the craft it's composed of a type, what we call metamaterial now. And they showed me places that are planets that are like in conjunction, have an agreement with this alliance, that they mine actual metals from, all right? And what they're communicating with me is these planets are often devoid of both atmospheres and Van Allen belts. And there's something about the cosmic rays that bombard the planet at that rate. There's so much more that makes the metals much more resistant than anything we would have like here on Earth. So they use, actually, those are the minerals that they're mining from these planets, and then they take that and combine it with some type of a spore, all right, and involved with their, not just a spore, which is some type of a fungus, which I've talked about how they're capable of intergalactic travel. That's been noted, just like the tardigrade, okay? Then they also involve some part of their DNA of some of the crew members, I'm sure. And that's what gives them the kind of symbiotic control over the ship that I've seen, because there's not always panels in all these rooms. And sometimes I've seen lights and things and they're going like this, but they're not actually touching anything. So that tells me there's a symbiotic connection. And when it comes to something like this illustration right here, which is one of these eggs that I talked about, this is on board this ship, okay? There's Mana, the species Mana, that I've shown you Mana before. Mana's taller than this one, but Mana has the distinctive look, excuse me, of having brain coral as a brain, all right? Kind of like a cross between outer brain and then also what we have here on Earth called brain coral, or sorry, sea coral. Actually, you look up sea coral, it looks a lot like that, all right? But I noticed that the walls themselves had some type, they had kind of a mushroom type of a texture to it, but more tough, all right? And for some reason, when I touched when I actually touched the walls itself, it felt more harder than a mushroom, but more like the consistency of like maybe an aardvark type of deal. But it reminded me something of their heads to some degree. Their heads look kind of like the cross between a brain exposed on the outside, sea coral, and like maybe, armadillo. I'm sorry, armadillo skin, kind of how their shell is, kind of that hard consistency like that. So the walls kind of had that too, but they felt undeniably organic. So I don't know exactly what all it is that they do that makes these rooms move on the inside, but I'm sure that the inside and outside of these ships are not in the same dimension, and only the outside of the ship exists as a real space-time event. That's what I think. And that gives to the temporal distortment I've encountered in there that made me so sick that it's hard to actually, let alone do so much on this experience, because it's hard to keep your cookies. Anyway, so that's something I just wanted to go over about the basic ship construction. I know that there is also a plasma that's involved in the system, that they release anti-gravity field around the skin of the ship itself. We've talked about that. It's an orgone type of energy that they actually are using. All right, so that's type of something that they've got incorporated into that. There's several different aspects when actually trying to evaluate what a multi-dimensional ship like this is. And it's not just talk. This was a real event. I was physically on board. So this type of technology can be created. Maybe it's, gosh, I don't know. I would imagine thousands of years beyond where we're at right now, unless we get more spiritual with our technology and involve that much more than just basic metamaterials. But nonetheless, when kind of making references to this, check out where our science right now is going, with quasi-crystal research, the crystals that they're growing in labs, all right, where they're going with metamaterials involving invisibility and cloaking, things of that nature, all right, and also the self-repairing metals that they have. I just got through talking to someone recently that's trying to develop, involving a patent that they already have now for self-healing glass. So it's things like that, this type of materials that's coming much more to fruition right now, but I've seen before, and this has been 20-some years ago, you know what I mean? So just want to kind of just throw this out. This is Patreon, this is the first time I'm doing that. I'm going to try to do a live feed about this and things like this, just so I can communicate with everybody, because actually people actually paying here to talk and be watching this creation. So thank you very much. I'm going to try to do a lot more on here, a little bit more, even longer videos if I can. And when I do a live feed, I want it to be long and try to get everybody coordinated so we can do it like a small group and just really chop it up a little. I think that's important right now because things are not going good on this planet. I had these experiences. I know a lot of you have. A lot of people that are talking to me, I mean, they're having their own experiences that are way more incredible than what I've had. So I want to kind of bring that out and maybe get even some scientists to talk about this and throw some of this around. I know they're watching, so, you know, they won't get involved, though. They're not saying anything. Only those of us that have had experiences seem to be really involved right now. Instead, we're wasting time on the secret space program and, you know, and that's only going to go so far. But that doesn't help people like me, those having real experiences that weren't government involved, that didn't have people on us like that. Not that that doesn't happen, but that wasn't what happened to me. Thank God. I'm cool with that. All right. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk about these super materials that they're giving, what they showed me, how they communicated this. All right. So this is one part of some of this technology, the ships. I've been on some other ships I've shown you that are different, that were even less, I think they're more what we would call pure conscious craft. And at what time can our Merkabah, does the consciousness become more solidified if a being chooses to become a craft? All right. But these here are these craft I've described, this material that is actually this this compound of this craft. The compound of this craft is actually put together, and then it is grown over a singularity, over a wormhole, over a micro wormhole, I believe. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. That's what you have here. So that ship is actually grown in deep space, over the singularity itself. So that's also another thing that makes it alive. And what they showed me, something like what we would call a shipyard, let's say like Starfleet, Star Trek, Utopia Planitia, that would be more like to us when we see actually a little field or a little mushrooms coming up, how they kind of come up in those culps, how they, boom, the fungus grows over, they pop up these little culps. So then they showed me a shipyard, it'd be several of these things being grown out there in similar fashion to that, the way the fungus and the mushrooms do. It's just a different compound. That's what they showed me. We're not there yet with our technology. We're still doing fossil fuels. So that tells you where these cats are at with it. Anyway, thank you for subscribing to this channel. The one or two of you that are here, thank you. I'll do some more. I'll try to do a live feed where we can actually just talk. So it's really worth people that are paying for each one of these creations. I want them to get something from it. I want you to get something that is not mainstream. Because everything I've went through, most of it anyway, was not mainstream. And that made it very hard to accept the experiences themselves. It made it very hard to communicate it to others. And just alone trying to do enough research to try to find something to validate what I've experienced was... Real quick, just to kind of wrap up a little bit, we talked about that. I want to say how the compound is grown in deep space. That makes some type of a molecular bonding stronger, is what they're communicating with me. Kind of like the way they do glass in space right now or in zero gravity. So just kind of keep that in mind. And that's just me trying to understand what I experienced and the information they gave me. And it's such a download, it's hard to even get slow enough to pull that information. Sometimes you have to get hypnosis or whatever it might be. For me, I just have to sit there and think so hard and then go back and actually regress to find some of the fine details. I mean, they communicate a lot. So if this helps anyone, I hope it does. Thank you for coming over here with me. We're going to do a lot more things that are more interactive. They're hoping even a little longer, that well, I actually want people to get their money's worth for even following me into here. So thank you very much. And not many of the trolls are going to be here, so I'm cool with that. Thank you very much. We'll talk again. Peace.